Kristen Kerr est une adorable petite bonne femme de 22 ans qui a passé sa vie à prendre soin des animaux sauvages depuis sa naissance dans un sanctuaire pour animaux. Elle a fait l'école à la maison dès l'âge de 10 ans, les animaux lui manquant trop et sa passion ne faisant qu'augmenter depuis son enfance. Maintenant adulte, elle travaille à temps plein dans le sanctuaire dans lequel nous sommes allés et elle prend soin d'une douzaine d'animaux depuis son ouverture en 2016. Des guépards aux hyènes jusqu'aux girafes, aux suricates ou aux zèbres, aucun animal n'est considéré comme étant trop dangereux ou trop petit pour être au sanctuaire. Kristen dit que c'est son père Barry, 54 ans, éleveur de lions et autres félins, qui lui a appris tout ce qu'elle sait maintenant.
Yes, and I'm going to tell you how we tell the difference between them.
Yeah.
My dad uses the spots, but it's too complicated for me. So if you look at Blaze has, it almost looks like smoke. I don't know, it's very like misty, the tip of his tail.
Alright, this one is more black.
Yeah, now this is Bolt. Bolt has half black, half white.
Okay.
Yes.
And then Bandit has got a white tip.
Ah. And you can't tell by their faces or heads.
I find it more difficult too. I mean, my dad can go and say, oh, this is Bandit because his whiskers are facing this way. But it's more difficult for me to do that. I mean, when I come in here, I just say the boys. I never call them by their names. Unless one is individually coming to me, then I will. But most of the time, it's just the boys.
Although those three cheetahs are the most tamed animals you have here, amongst the cheetahs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that pretty much anybody can interact with them. But obviously there's still precautions to take because sometimes someone will be kneeling down like this and they'll come and jump on the back. And the first thing people do is they panic. So they stand up and then the claws dig into their skin. So that's why I always, when I bring people in here, I say, if they jump on you, please don't panic and scream and just stand there. I'll come and take the paws off because you see, they don't have retractable claws.
Of course.
So their claws are always out. It's okay, big boy. So that's the problem. So that if you get them on you and then you pull away, it's immediate. Whereas a lion, for example, might put his paw on you
And then retract.
Exactly, and not have the claws out, so then he won't hurt you. But with these guys, you've got to be a lot more careful.
And so they were born here?
Yes.
Okay, and so you bottle fed them when they were young?
Yeah, these three were bottle fed, and then obviously the sister stayed with the mother. So their mom had 4 babies, and I mean I wasn't working here when she had the babies, but from what I know is she started to run low on milk, but we didn't know that, so we just started noticing they were looking very not underfed, but more malnutritioned, so not enough nutrients was going into them. We had the vet come out, the vet checked them and said they're perfectly healthy, but she doesn't have enough milk to feed them. And that's when we thought, okay, and I think, as far as I remember, the vet said you can take 2 away, and then we thought, no, we'll take 3.
The 3 males.
Exactly, so then they won't ever breed with their sister or their mother, because she came from a breeding facility when she was rescued.
The mother?
Yeah, so the mother and Jabulani and Temba, they all came from the same place. And because in a breeding...
Jabulani and Timba are much older.
Yeah, much older, yeah. And in any breeding facility, what do? They have babies. At the minute the babies are out, the babies are taken away. So the mother, she never learned to produce enough food for all of her babies. But then you see her female now that she's kept.
Yeah.
She had a lot of milk, so which is why she's so big as well.
You're talking about Bailey.
Yes, Bailey. But even though she's not totally wild. She's semi-wild, if we can also use that term. But she won't just attack. She'll test you first. When she was little, she used to do this thing where she used to run and she used to slap her paws onto the ground just to like intimidate you and scare you. Now I'm not so sure. She might come and just attack, but cheetahs aren't like that. They're too docile to just attack people.
And when you came here, how old were they?
3 months.
3 months.
So they were still young. They weren't big already. But yeah.
Why are they being fed that way with small pieces of meat?
So the previous place that they lived, they had to hunt for their own food. And when they hunt for their own food, obviously the teeth deteriorate. In captivity, obviously their teeth would last longer because they're being fed pieces of meat. And because he had gingivitis, so he had some of his teeth removed, which is why now he has to eat teeny tiny pieces. So he just has to swallow. There's no chewing involved.
So how old is he?
14. Well, he turns 14 this year.
And how long is the life expectancy of a cheetah?
In captivity, it's 8 to 10 years. I mean, in the wild, 8 to 10 years, and in captivity, they can live 18, if you're lucky. But obviously, I mean, they brothers and they're the exact same age, but you see how his health is worse than his health. So that's a perfect example of, it can be any age. But these are obviously our oldest residents. And he's also got liver problems. So sometimes if we give him too big of pieces, then he vomits. So that's why they have to be as small as possible.
So initially they weren't tamed at all because they were hunting for their food.
Oh no, they were tamed. So the guy that had them in an enclosure, and then when it was feeding time, they used to take them out the enclosure, and then they used to go and hunt for their own food.
Oh, that's good. So that's a semi-captivity.
Yeah. So letting them have a bit of wild, but still being in captivity.
That's great. Your father told us that you were homeschooling. Yeah.
Yeah, when I was younger. Yeah.
Oh, when you were younger. So what do you do now?
Nothing.
Nothing. You don't study at university.
No.
You don't want to have a degree in zoology or something?
I dropped out of school.
Okay.
So I didn't finish my schooling.
But when you were in Malawi, you were homeschooling already?
Yeah, I've been homeschooled since I was in... Do you work in grades? Grades or standards? Yeah, grade 3.
Okay. Grade
So
3.
since grade 3. Yeah.
Okay,
So,
that's been a long time.
yeah.
A very long
So
time.
since 9 years old? Yeah.
So it's a special kind of life, huh?
Yeah. I worked out the other day that I've moved 19 times. And I'm 22 years old. It's a lot.
That's right. It's more than, nearly once a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
And-
but no, I'm not studying anything.
Okay, you just want to learn by doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Experience. There's like a website called Wildlife Campus, and you can do a lot of anything, game ranging, animal behavior, all that kind of stuff. So I did think of getting something behind my name, but my goal at the moment is to open my own sanctuary.
Yeah, we know that.
Yeah.
With your boyfriend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So hopefully that can be pulled off. And
Do you have any ideas about the animals you'd like to have, or you could afford?
Cheetahs, for sure.
yeah, cheetahs of course, but I don't want any animals that are bought. So it will only be rescued.
You're right.
That's all. So if it ends up being 2 years where we don't have any animals, if we have to wait, then we have to wait.
Okay.
So, because I'm very anti buying animals, and also one of the big things that I've made very clear, if I do ever open one, would be that anything that can be put back into the wild must go back into the wild. Obviously, it's more difficult with lions, cheetahs, because there isn't really a wild in South Africa. But because the Kruger's not really wild either, because it's still
in what sense is it not? Because it's very large. So
yeah, so it's what we call semi-wild.
Semi-wild.
Because
Yes, she's right.
Yeah, because
It's not
Yeah, I agree.
totally wild.
No.
because as long as any area that is maintained by people,
by you.
yeah, it's called semi-wild, because they will go and say, okay, we've got too much of this, and they'll get someone to shoot.
Okay,
If
but
there's-
in that case, is there any place in the world where you can still call the wild?
Yeah,
Except
so-
for the Arctic area?
So like Tanzania.
Tanzania, is it?
Because there's no
Really?
fences. It's
Inside?
everything's just.
Okay.
You get times where the lions will walk through the. I don't know what the town is there in, but so that is what I would say the wild.
Or northern Botswana, maybe?
Northern Botswana, yeah. There's a few places in Africa that have got wild, but South Africa, unfortunately, it's all Pilanesberg, Kruger National Park, Denokeng. It's all maintained by people, so it's what we say semi-wild.
Okay.
But it's more wild than anywhere else, because also, I mean, the animals here in the back there, the giraffes and stuff, are technically also in the wild, but they'll eventually reach a fence. It's the same as in the Kruger. If they just kept walking, they'd eventually get to a fence.
To us, the big difference for the predators, at least, is when the animals can feed by themselves.
Exactly, yeah. So that's why it is semi-wild,
Even
because
if
they
it's
still.
semi-wild, like in Pilanesberg, where we've been, so we know the place. Still, the lions and cheetahs, they feed by themselves.
Yeah, so
So-
that's why there's a semi-wild, because
Yeah,
they're
because-
still looking after themselves.
Yes.
And
there's a full chain of feeding.
Yeah.
Which is.
and also what is good is if there is a, let's say an impala that's orphaned because a leopard ate the mother, or they won't go in there and try and take it away, because it belongs there. And if something's going to kill the baby, then something needs to kill the baby, because that's the whole cycle of yeah.
Sure.
Because otherwise, if they had all the animals there, but they kept going and saying, oh shame that one doesn't have a baby, oh shame that one doesn't have a mom, then it would
It disrupts everything.
exactly, yeah. It just takes the whole circle of life out of it.